Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Wader, and we are back talking college football Week 5 action. Whew, it was a weekend.
Yes, it was.
A lot of shakeup. It started early in the weekend on Friday night. But before we get into that, MLB playoffs are around the corner. Starting tomorrow, actually, we'll see those wild card series start to kick off. So with that being said, we're going to do our yearly Bull Take podcast tradition of picking the wild card rounds, and then picking our World Series matchup and our World Series winner. Let's go ahead and start on the AL side, where we've got the 3 seed Cleveland Guardians taking on the 6 seed Detroit Tigers. If you paid no
Yeah.
attention to baseball this season, this may not mean anything to you. But if
Yeah.
you watched any baseball this year, kept up at all, the Cleveland Guardians were the worst team in baseball, it felt
Mm,
like, for the first half of the season. And the Tigers were the best team in baseball for the first half of the
Yes.
season. And a complete shift for both of these teams as the Tigers went on a huge skid. Guardians go on to win the Central, and the Tigers come down to the last day to make it here into the playoffs as the 6 seed in the AL. So a lot riding into this matchup in this series where, sure, on paper, the Detroit Tigers are the better team and probably the team you should pick here. But the Guardians, who kind of sold at the deadline,
hmm
still find their way in as the 3 seed and still are the hotter, more successful team. So what are your thoughts on who you pick in this matchup?
So if I remember correctly, I don't remember the official date of it, but I remember at a certain point the Guardians were what 15 and a half games back in July. I don't remember when in
Yeah,
July, but 15 and a
something like
half
that.
games back of that division. They somehow won it. So yeah, I don't know how there because like you talked about, if I remember, I watched the deadline. I'm like, man, the Guardians got rid of a lot of pieces. Okay, this is the Tigers division to lose. Speak too soon. Yeah, so things have fallen apart for the Tigers, at least based on what I've seen. But like you said, on paper, they are probably the better team. On paper, because we know what they were last year in the playoffs. We know what they look like throughout most of the season. But if there's one thing I know about playoff baseball, you ride with momentum. It don't matter who the better team is in baseball. It's all about momentum, at least to me, based on it. So, with that being said, I'm going to pick the Guardians to win. The better momentum right now, plus all 3 games at home, especially with the recent playing at home whenever they played the Tigers last couple of times. So, yeah, I'll pick Cleveland to win the series.
I like it. Look, I agree with you. I think momentum is super duper important, and I think that might allow Cleveland to kind of have some success early and maybe in game one to take that first game in Cleveland. But I'm not so confident. Look, I think the best thing about this Detroit Tigers team is sure, you just fell off. You didn't have the season you wanted, but you're still in the playoffs, and you still have the best rotation in
Yes.
baseball. And in
Yeah.
3 games, to have guys like Scooble come out there and pitch for you, it's going to be unbelievable. It's certainly going to be hard for Cleveland to just come out there and blow them out. Um, if I was Detroit, I might save Tariq Skubal for game 2. Like I
Yeah.
said, I could see the Guardians coming out and having some success and kind of having an advantage in this first game, matching up. And so maybe getting Skubal to come out there and kind of ground you in game 2 might be the better approach here. But I'm going to take the Detroit Tigers here. I think this is your opportunity against the team that kind of made you look silly in the second half of the season. Let's go out there and get a win and get it done in 3 games. I like Detroit to win this one.
Yeah. And that's something else I will say. It's all about momentum. And at the end of the year, when in doubt, trust in the better pitching staff. That is something else. I
Yeah.
mean, that so I concur, but like the way it is, like my thing's canceled out here. So I was like, oh shoot. Yeah, we'll go Cleveland. Why not? They're at home. Friggin'.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like their chances. I don't think they're gonna be I don't think they're gonna get run over in this series. Probably a 3 game series in my opinion.
Yes.
But then we look at our other series here in the AL, and we've got the Yankees facing off against the Red Sox, a
Who
rivalry
wouldn't
that
want
runs
any other
deep
way?
between Agreed. And they're going to have to fight for their spot in because the team that one of these teams will face in the second round, uh, being the Blue Jays, have won the division.
Yes.
So they get a little bit easy rest. Here's the one seed in the AL. But look, you had the Red Sox who had a similar terrible start to the season. You had all the drama with Rafael Devers,
Hmm.
trade him to the Giants where he plays some of his best ball he's played in a while. Alex Bregman had a slow start. But what really helped this team, in my opinion, is having a force like a Aroldis Chapman in the bullpen. The way he's
Yeah.
kind of reinvented himself since that return to the Yankees after the World Series with the Cubs, where his tenure with the Yankees wasn't terrible, but it wasn't what it had been 2016 and before.
Yep.
And then since then, with all the teams that he's played for in the past couple of years, you think about with the Rangers in that run, spent some time with the Royals and the Pirates, and now here with the Red Sox. He's been a consistent force out of the bullpen. And when you have this guy and Liam Hendricks at the back end of your bullpen, and you've got a Aroldis Chapman, I think he went 50 straight batters without allowing a runner on base. That's a lot of base. That's a little over two baseball games worth of batters
Hmm.
faced um, to not allow a hit. So to have that kind of force in the back end of your bullpen really helped this team. And for the Yankees, it was a dominant start to the season and a dominant lead. But what we saw in the World Series last year, this team's not improved on at all. We talk about, look, they have the power, they do the big stuff great. But what did the Dodgers say last year? When you make them play fundamental baseball, that's
Yep.
where this team makes mistakes. And we saw that this year. Floppy had a ton of errors this year. This team had a ton of errors this year. And the constant base running mistakes from guys like Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe again. They're a great team and they've got some great talent. I don't mean to dog Jazz Chisholm because he is an elite talent. But these blunders,
Yep.
it makes you wonder what do you do as Aaron Boone or as the Yankees in general to clean this stuff up? Because look, sure, sometimes you take off a little early, or sometimes you don't realize the ball's been caught, whatever, and you get tied up on the bases. But when it feels like once a game, Jazz Chisholm is getting tied up on the base paths, something's got to give. So in this series, two teams that have had their ups and downs again, but I think they both kind of found their rhythm coming into this postseason. Who do you take in a bitter rivalry?
Yeah, let me just go watch 4 days in October really quick tonight, before this series. I mean, listen, it's gonna be the one. Now, whenever they were getting ready to announce the schedule for the Wild Card Series, I was like, I could bet any amount of money that this will not be one of the afternoon games. They will put this in prime time where everyone's gonna tune in because everyone's gonna tune in for it. But like you said, these two teams have really kind of found their rhythm to end the year. I have been amazed by the Red Sox because whenever that
Agreed.
Devers trade happened, I remember thinking I was like, "Ugh, man, is Boston ever going to get back to what they were a few years ago?" Because I mean, that 2018 World Series team, I think was that 2018 when they beat the Dodgers. To me, that's one of the
Yes.
best baseball teams I've ever watched. Was that 2018
Agreed.
Red Sox team? Um, so I like the chances. I think with it being such a competitive rivalry, there's plenty there. But again, the thing I go with, like you mentioned last one, I always look at the pitching. And I'll be honest with you, the pitching and the bullpen for the Red Sox is what I like better in this game, in this series. So I'm going to pick Boston to win in this series. I know the Yankees have the power, but like you talk about, when it comes to fundamental baseball, I'm just not sure. And with that Red Sox bullpen, I think that's really good. Late in the game, they're going to be able to get the outs to be able to sneak out of Yankee Stadium. It's another series that I could see going to 3 games because there might be a game where the Yankees and Judge and them come out and just it's home run after home run. We know what Yankee Stadium is. It's basically a T-ball field for MLB players when it
Yeah.
comes to home runs. So, but I'm going to pick the Red Sox get a win on the road in this wild card series.
I also like the Red Sox for a lot of reasons, like you said. Look, this pitching staff, this bullpen is going to be tough to beat. You see the power from the Yankees, and absolutely they're going to get a hold of some, but they're not going to have the kind of games where you've got Aaron Judge hitting two home runs, Cody
Yeah.
Bellinger's getting a home run, Stanton's getting a home run, Chisholm's getting a home run. That's not going to happen. with the Boston Red Sox. If it does, something's gone seriously wrong. Looking at this team and the way they've played, they're not going to go with the big power, the big hits consistently. And when it comes down to that, when the Yankees aren't getting the big hits, when anybody's not getting the big home runs, what do you got to do? You got to play small ball. You got to play
Hmm.
fundamental baseball. You got to make the right decisions on the base paths. And when you see these two teams match up, I just don't know if the way the Yankees have played this season, you can trust them to make those fundamental plays, especially in a series where you might get frustrated facing guys like Aroldis Chapman
Hmm.
and Liam Hendricks out of the bullpen. It's going to be tough. You're going to want to make those big plays. A team that's known for making the big, exciting plays, and when they're just not coming, I just don't know if I trust this Yankees team. So I'm also going to go with the Red Sox in this one. Let's flip it over to the NL now, where we've got a couple interesting matchups. Both of them NL Central versus NL
Yeah.
West, if you'll believe that. But let's start with the 3 versus 6. We've got the reigning, defending World Series champions from last year, the LA Dodgers, who have not quite had the same dominant run and season that they had last year. Still got a great team, full of star power. But we thought with all the moves they made, adding guys like Blake Snell this offseason, that we'd see an even better version of the team we saw last year. And that just hasn't been the case. This is still a good team, still a World Series competitor with the talent
Absolutely.
they have. But no, they've looked human, and I think that's been relieving for people to see. On the other side of it, we see the Cincinnati Reds, who just kind of floated around this season and went on a great run to end their season, steal this 6th seed from a team like the New York Mets, who I mean I felt like was probably a shoe-in to make some form of
If
the
you would
post.
have told me in July that the New York Mets would not have made the playoffs, I would have been like, yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
But the Reds are in. Look, on paper, they do not compare. They're a great
No.
young team, but we're talking about an established team like the Dodgers. But look, recently they've been gritty, they've been doing it right, and the addition of Ke'Bryan Haynes at third base has made all
Mm,
the world of
mm.
difference for this team defensively. You think about all the errors that they had on the left side of the infield. And look, some of that comes with having this uber freak athlete in Ellie De La Cruz at shortstop. Sometimes those guys make mistakes. Javier Baez with the Chicago Cubs did a lot of great things, won some gold gloves, but when he messed up bad. So to get a guy like Ke'Bryan Haynes, who's just this consistent elite platinum glove winner at third base, who also decided to have his best offensive second half of his career, the Reds really look like they could be a team that if you don't pay attention and you kind of sleep on them, they could sneak up and take this series from you. So who do you got?
You know, it's amazing what happens whenever you leave the Pittsburgh Pirates organization, how much better things get for
Mhm.
you as a player. Ask Garrett Cole, I could name a whole
Yeah.
bunch of guys, but it's amazing what happens with that. But talking about it, on paper, this shouldn't even be a contest. Dodgers should win this in 2 games easily. But I always think back with the Dodgers, and just like every now and then, I just think of these playoff series. 2019 against the Nationals in the playoff series. I'm like, there's no way the Dodgers lose this series. And then I don't remember who hit the grand slam in like the 12th inning of like game 3, and that
Howie
was
Kendrick.
yes, I couldn't remember his name. It was bothering me this whole time because I remember leading that postseason like, dang, Howie Kendrick's just a god. What can I say? But I
NLCS
remember that.
MVP that year.
Yeah. I remember the Mets series a few years before that. I remember the Padres when they didn't have a couple of their star players against that Dodgers team and they beat them. So I'm gonna pick the Dodgers very cautiously here because I think outright if Cincinnati's bats get going early, that's the thing. Because you talked about the defense is going to be there for Cincinnati. The defense is going to give them a chance in these games. If they can get their bats going against this Dodgers starting pitching and then that bullpen, we shall see. But if they can get after that Dodgers bullpen, I am not right now a chance for them because, like I talked about, I've seen the Dodgers fail in big playoff series many, many times where I'm like, I can't believe the Dodgers blew that.
Yeah. Look, I think the Dodgers should win this series. I
Yeah.
don't think they will. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Reds in this one. This is going to be a little bit of a bold prediction by me. But like you said, the team, especially the defense, has become a lot more grounded. in the second half of this season. The pitching has been good all year. Hunter Green's had a career
Hmm.
year. Andrew Abbott, career year. They've got the right forces leading this team. Brady Singer has turned his season around after being acquired this offseason
Yeah.
for Jonathan India. So they've really found the right pieces in the rotation. They've got an established a lot better on defense. I think we see kind of the Dodgers of old. Look, if you started watching baseball from if you've been watching baseball from 2020 until now, do you think the Dodgers are one of these great
Hmm.
postseason teams? They've won 2 World Series in that
Yep.
time. Um, but if you've been watching baseball as long as I have, especially when you talk about some of these teams, starting back in 2013, 2014, this is a team that is consistently supposed to
Yep.
have been
Yep.
one of the best teams in baseball. They always have a great team. They're always competing for the playoffs, and they always get in their own way.
Yep.
You talked about a lot of those playoff collapses, a lot of those playoff chokes. 2016 against Chicago, the Cubs were the better
Yep.
team on paper. But look, they had some momentum going in that series, and they blew it coming back to Wrigley Field. They let the Cubs get hot, and they let the Cubs go. Clayton Kershaw, look, again, if you think about from 2020 until now, he's been a consistent force in the postseason. Before that, Clayton Kershaw was
No.
had not won a postseason game until 2020, if I'm
Yep.
correct.
Yeah.
Um, so they're a great team. They've got a great pieces, but I think this one they underestimate the Cincinnati Reds and they get punched in the mouth. I think the Reds take this one in two.
I think so. And I mean, again, and just another thing, what do the Reds have to lose? I don't think they thought they were going
Agreed.
to be here like a couple months ago. They snuck in here with 83 wins. What the heck do they got to lose here? A team with nothing to lose is the most dangerous team. So it would not surprise me at all if the Reds pulled off the shocker. I would not be surprised.
I'm with you there. Then finally, our last little wild card matchup here. We've got the Cubs versus the Padres. Two teams come in second place in their division. Two very talented rosters.
Mm,
Uh, Look, the Cubs have just kind of been riding around this spot all year. Sure, had some ups and downs, but really, this has been the same old Cubs we've seen all year.
yep.
No Justin Steele, no problem. They've been able to get a lot of help from Matthew Boyd, who was kind of a late signing this offseason. And then adding Mike Soroka at the trade deadline. It's been kind of so-so. The bullpen definitely improved since the trade deadline. Um, but you wonder if we can see Kyle Tucker get back to the series and healthy. Certainly could be a difference maker for the Chicago Cubs. And for the Padres, a lot of questions about what this team's going to do this offseason.
Hmm.
You got a lot of money dedicated to this roster. And you gave up a lot to acquire a lot of these pieces. Feels like this could be maybe if you go in the first round, could be a little bit of a sell spree on some of these starting pitchers. Maybe Manny Machado's playing somewhere else next year, just because maybe it's not working. I think this team's great, very talented. It's just when are they going to get over the hump? When are they going to push past the Dodgers? And when are they going to get these pieces that they put together to be playing at their best all at the same time?
Yeah. I remember. I think since like 2019, 2020, we've been saying the Padres are a team to watch out for in the future. Watch out for them. And we keep on waiting for when we're going to watch out for them. Because after they beat the Dodgers like 2 years ago, I think it was in the NLDS, we are like, okay, this is the year. And then the Phillies decided we're going to have a word about that in the NLCS with it. This one is probably the series I look forward to watching the most out of all of them, just with the dynamic of the two teams. I do think these are probably, like you talked about with the Cubs bullpen, these are probably two of the better bullpen teams in the major leagues right now, which I talk about. The bullpen and pitching can carry you a lot farther than maybe people think you could in the postseason. So obviously, I think have no idea where you're leaning for this game. I have no idea where you're leaning whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um, this is a close series, and with it being so close, with the teams really, in my opinion, because I've kept track of the Cubs, because for those of you who don't know, I'm a Cardinals fan. No, I don't want to talk about them. Um, I've watched the Cubs be the consistent same team all year long, where I'm just like, dang, they're still right there at the top as one of the top wild card teams, trying to compete with Milwaukee for a bit there. And so, with it being so close between these two teams and the edge, I would probably lean the home team this one. So I'm gonna pick the Cubs with it being the home team in this one. Um, but these two teams are really even. Man, oh man! Like I said, this is going to be my favorite series to watch. Out of all the wild card series.
Yeah, obviously, I'm going to pick the Chicago Cubs here. I like the Cubs. I think what they do is great. The pitching is going to be ridiculous in this game.
Yeah.
I think really just playing in front of those incredible fans in the friendly confines of Wrigley Field, uh, hopefully one time, but maybe twice, depending on how close this series really gets. I think having that boost from the fans is going to be probably the biggest thing for the Chicago Cubs. So I'll take the Cubs in this series. Um, Finally, let's just get it real quick. Who do you got winning the World Series this year?
Oh man, I tell you what. So I will just say it in the American League, I genuinely have no idea what's going to happen. The American League is one where I think there's a lot of different things that can happen with all the teams. I am personally in the American League, I am rooting for Seattle because I want the Mariners to have a successful season because I'm tired of their fans getting kicked in the groin every single time they look like they're going to have a successful year.
Yeah.
Um, but if I'm being honest, it feels like that kind of year. I'll take the Red Sox to get to to win the American League this year. I think they got the talent and the team that's good enough with the bullpen, with the hitting. I think in a season where it's kind of unpredictable there, I'll pick them. But like I said, my heart is with the Mariners. I want the Mariners to get to the World Series. Um, and then in the National League, look, it's going to be hard for me. I always want to believe that Milwaukee's going to be good, but their hitting always has me so worried come postseason time. And there's one I know I don't got to worry about with a Kyle Schwarber on him. So I'm going to pick the Phillies to get to the World Series from the National League. I think the Phillies are a really talented team. I've loved them the last couple of years. And then the Red Sox and the Phillies in the World Series, that'd be an intriguing matchup. I think I'll pick. You know what? Bryce Harper gets his ring. I'll pick the Phillies to win the World Series. This is the year for him and Trey Turner and them. Phillies will win the World Series.
I like it. I like it. Look, out of the American League, I like Seattle. I like Toronto. I think it's going to be one of these two teams. They've just played some great
Mm-hmm.
baseball this year. I think one of these teams is going to push it and make the World Series. I'm going to lean with the Blue Jays. I like the big upgrades this team made at the deadline, and they've made this team a much better team. Uh, and look, they were kind of they swept the Yankees and took a one-game lead over this team way back in the division, and then they never really rescinded it. There was
Yeah.
all the talk from the Yankees media. Oh, they bring out the brooms just for a one-game lead in the division. That'll be back to us anytime now. And then the Yankees decided to
Yep.
play their worst baseball of the entire
Yep.
season. I think the Blue Jays have been fired up. They've made a lot of upgrades. This team pushes itself into the World Series. It finally gets over those humps that have been in their way. And out of the National League, look, I'm going to go with the Chicago Cubs. I think if there's a
That's fair.
year, it's right now. Look, they've got the Padres, who I think they can beat. Then they face off against the Brewers.
Yeah.
Brewers finished 5 games ahead of us. I think this is another evenly matched series. I think on paper we're the better team. I think we get the best out of our guys, win this series. And then look, I think as long as we don't face the Dodgers, I'm pretty confident in what the Cubs can do. A little bit a fall off from that Phillies rotation. They're still good, but some
Hmm.
injuries and a couple
Yep.
guys slowing down a little bit. I don't think will be too much of an issue. Be the power out of the Phillies that I'd really be worried about.
Yep.
But Cubs, Blue Jays, World Series. Give me the Chicago Cubs to bring me another World Series home. Two in my lifetime would be
Yeah.
enough for me.
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing wasn't like freaking start of the season for the Blue Jays, wasn't all the drama about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
because he signed a huge extension this offseason,
Yeah.
so that he didn't walk. And then uh, he was actually hitting like 270. And people were like, that's not however much $1 million
Right.
worth.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but he's also only played a month of baseball. So that's not really a super duper fair way to
Yeah.
look at it. and now they're the one seed in the American League.
That's it. It's been a
Uh,
great turnaround for them. It's been an awesome one. I watched every chance I could at that like Yankee series, like that the one that you're referring to, because I knew it was going to be big for them. And absolutely, they look legit. Again, I'm rooting for the Mariners, but if it's not them or the Red Sox, I mean, it's going to be the Blue Jays, I believe.
yeah. Let's get into college football now. What everybody clicked on this video to watch. Uh, And look, we start on Friday night. We had two top 25 stunners, one maybe a little bit less than the other. But first off, Virginia takes down number 8 Florida State 46-38 and double overtime. And then Arizona State taking down the freshly ranked number 4 team in the nation, TCU 27-24. What are your thoughts on our Friday night action?
We should have known whenever these games happened on Friday night how chaotic Saturday was going to be. I mean, we should have just
Great.
known right away. Um, but I was fully planning on just watching Arizona State TCU. That was my plan going into now. I was like, I'll put on Florida State and Virginia until Arizona State and TCU kicks off, and then we'll just go from there. Well, Chandler Morris, son of Chad Morris, don't say that name in Arkansas enough, or you'll be a one-in man.
He's coming
Just,
back.
but him and this Virginia office decided, let's get out to a quick 14-0 lead, and it's like, okay, I got to focus in now. Then Florida State gets 21 unanswered. It's like, there's the Florida State we were expecting. But unlike Virginia in the past, they kept on punching and coming back late in the game and were able to make it interesting down the stretch. And how about Tommy Castellanos? Even though they lost, that 4th and goal throw late in the game with the game on the line, phenomenal throw and catch. Um, Virginia ended up getting the win in overtime. Can I just say that has to be one of the greatest field rushes I have ever seen, not just in college football, but like in any college sport ever. And that's the perk of having that hill at Virginia. It's such easy access that the second they saw that pass was intercepted or incomplete, they knew they were hustling on the field. So
Yeah.
it's huge for Virginia. I can't remember in my lifetime the last time Virginia had a win like this, in at least in my lifetime. So congrats to them on the win, and as we'll talk about in a little bit, on entering the top 25. And for Florida State, this was considered a trap game because they were looking ahead. They were looking ahead to a certain matchup that we're going to talk about for this weekend. Um,
Yeah.
but the good news is that game's still ahead of them. ACC play still ahead of them. Playoff chances are still ahead of them. So they'll be fine. They just got to bounce back. And Arizona State got down 17-0. And I was like, this might have been a little bit of an upsie for me for thinking Arizona State deserved to be ranked. Then I'm like, wait a minute. This is Kenny Dillingham, Sam Levitt, and this Arizona State team that's confident and has won in the past. And that's what they did, being able to come back. Defense got the strip sack late in the game. Um, I don't know what Coach Dillingham was doing late in the 4th quarter on 4th down. Buddy, take the points. Don't
Yeah.
overthink it. Take the points. They were able to get the interception at the end. So congrats for Arizona State. They're finally back in the rankings where they belong. But these are two teams that I would not be shocked if we saw play again in Arlington in a couple of months.
Yeah. And look, let's stop trying to predict the Big 12. We've done it year in and year out. And even when we think we have the answers to the questions, when you think you have the answers to the test sitting right in front of you, still you make a zero coming into this matchup. I mean, unbelievable. Like you said, down 17-0, and Arizona State just has no quit in them. That's what makes Big 12 football so much fun to watch. Man, what a blast. And for Virginia, look, you talked about you don't remember in your lifetime the last time Virginia had a win like this. When's the last time in our lifetime Virginia was in the top 25?
That's a very good point.
Um,
That's a very good point.
so awesome to see. And look, what was even more surprising to me is after this game, realizing they're 4-1. They're gonna be in the rankings this coming week. Look for all the drop down that Clemson has had in the ACC this year, and Pitt's been kind of disappointing where I expected them to be great, and North Carolina has been must turn off TV. We really got to look at some great teams in the ACC coming out of nowhere, like the Virginia Cavaliers, who are stepping up into the spotlight and taking advantage of the moment. And obviously, like you hinted at, a big matchup this weekend between two teams who look to be at the front of that ACC championship conversation.
So I found
Um,
so actually they were ranked in 2019 for a short bit of time.
wow. I do
Apparent, I
not
think
remember that.
that was the year when Bronco Mendenhall was there and they played Clemson in the ACC championship. I think that's that year, if I
Oh
remember
yeah.
correctly.
Okay, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was
Where
their
I'm
quarterback? What
like,
was his
how the
name?
heck did Virginia make the ACC championship? And it's like, yeah, they did. And then they proceeded to get throttled by Clemson, like we all expected. So
Was there a quarter? What was that guy's name? Bryce something? Did he play for the
Bryce
Rams?
Perkins, Bryce Perkins,
Bryce Perkins. Yes.
that he was fun to watch. He was
Um,
fun to watch.
he was fun to watch, and he got a couple starts for the Rams there.
Yeah, I
Uh,
do remember that.
is it the year like Goff's? No, not. It might have been the same year that they traded for Baker
Yes,
Mayfield. It should
I
have been
think
Baker
that was
Mayfield.
because Stafford was out the whole year pretty much. So they were playing every quarterback I think they could possibly get their hands on for that team. So yeah, I'm pretty sure. If I remember correct, I think Bryce Perkins started against the Chiefs in that afternoon game one of those times where I'm like,
Yeah,
freaking, what are we doing here? Bryce Perkins against the Chiefs? Like, what are we doing here?
agreed. But look, let's take it into Saturday. Like you said, Friday should have told us something. And just as we get into this Saturday slate, just to let you know a little bit of what we had, three top five teams went down this weekend. But look, let's kick it off where it all started in this early morning slate. We had number 22 Notre Dame slaughtering the Arkansas Razorbacks 56-13. Look, this was tough to watch. As a Notre Dame fan, this was tough to watch. Look, from the perspective of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, awesome. Jadarian Price, awesome. CJ Carr, way to find your feet, buddy. Look, Purdue, Arkansas, as we get into this back half of the schedule, CJ Carr's had 2 games to really establish himself and get more comfortable in this passing offense. I'd look for a completely different CJ Carr the rest of the season than we saw in those first 2 weeks. Now that he's had a chance, even against, not the best secondaries in the country, still a chance, though, to really feel confident and let it fly in this playbook. But from the perspective of the Hogs, what are your thoughts on this one?
So obviously we're going to talk about a certain someone in that in
Yes.
a little bit here. So I'm just going to focus on the game here. I'll be honest, I quit watching this game at halftime. I legit, you could ask my mom, I legit turned off the TV, went in my room, put on a UCA shirt, and watched college football the rest of the day. I didn't care to even wear anything Arkansas related with it. But I mean, let's just say it like it is. My worry coming into this game was stopping the Notre Dame run game. And I said that Jeremiah Love was going to have a field day against us. Sure enough, in the run and the pass game, he had a field day against us. Here's the thing that's crazy. I look at the stats 420 yards of offense, 42 points. That was in the first half, ladies and gentlemen. That was just in the first 30 minutes of this game. Notre Dame finished the game averaging 9 yards a play. They literally picked up a first down pretty much almost every single play. So, and I know all the people I remember like weeks ago be like, well, it's the Arkansas defense. That's the only issue. The offense is fine. Really? Our offense is fine? Last I checked, our only touchdown we scored in the game was by offensive lineman Shaq McRoy. That was our only touchdown in the freaking game. Shout out Shaq McRoy, the freshman, the big guy, 6'8", like 300, like 40 pounds. I don't know. I wouldn't have stopped him either. I enjoyed the touchdown, didn't enjoy the rest of the game. But congrats to Notre Dame for coming out and just the throttling. I mean, that's the kind of thing where, look, even after they started 0-2 and we were like, they shouldn't be ranked, to come out and throttle an opponent like that is something where people are like, okay, so this is kind of why we kept Notre Dame kind of ranked. I still disagree. They shouldn't have been ranked, but that's kind of the reasoning. Now, the big thing for Notre Dame, obviously, is like I said, you can't lose another game and expect to make the playoff. If you even want to remotely have a chance of being in the discussion for the playoff at the end of the year, you need to win the rest of these games on your schedule and not just win. You need to dominate for anyone to give your chance in the discussion. Arkansas, obviously, we're going to talk more about them in a second, but that's it for my thoughts there.
Yeah, and I was talking about this before the game, and come on and say it here. Look, right now what we're seeing is very similar to what we saw last season. Huge win week 1 for Notre Dame again at Kyle Field against Texas A&M. Week 2, They are absolutely stunned by Northern
Mhm.
Illinois. And people think, well, you can't lose another game after that. You've got to find a way. Who do they play the next week? Purdue, and they rout them. And for the rest of the season, they go on to have an average margin of victory of 35 points and make the college football playoff. And it all started by finding their footing offensively against Purdue. We're seeing a very similar thing here. You start the season 0-2, but against two teams that are 3-6 in the country right now. And so you get a little wiggle room, but you say, hey, you don't have another game on the schedule nearly that tough. You're going to have to win them all. What do? They play Purdue week 3. They win. They win big, and the offense has found its footing. And now we see it again against the Razorbacks. Win and win big. I don't know what it is about Marcus Freeman, but the way this guy finds a way to dig deep and motivate these guys, no, just basically tells them. Well, I guess he just tells them like it is. There's no hope left unless you come out here and win every single game, big time. He gets these guys fired up and motivated, and they continue to make the plays, and they continue to show why they are the team that they are coming into this season. So look, I agree with you. Notre Dame still shouldn't be in the rankings. They shouldn't have been in the rankings 2 weeks ago. They shouldn't be in the rankings now. But because they stayed in the rankings, they keep on winning. It's so hard to take them out now.
Right.
Um, but Notre Dame's got to use that to their advantage now. They're ranked, they're playing their best football, and they've got to keep that up. Number 23, Illinois had a huge bounce back win against number 21 USC. And look, I'm going to just say it like this. Illinois dominated this game, even though the final score doesn't show it. They dominated this game.
Oh yeah.
Two boneheaded fumbles by running backs in this game is the only reason USC was in it to begin with. USC has the ball coming out of the 2-minute warning. I want to get your thoughts on this. First play outside the 2-minute warning, they throw a fade to the end zone for a touchdown. Takes 5 seconds off the clock.
Yeah.
Illinois, minute 55, 3 timeouts, marches down the field, uses 1 timeout to actually stop
Yep.
the clock, and the second timeout just to get set up to kick the field goal. 1 timeout left and kick a walk-off field goal. I love Lincoln Riley. This has been a phenomenal USC team up to this point. But what are you thinking 1 play inside the 2-minute warning to go
Mhm.
for the end zone? All you had to do was take a little, at least run the ball once. You
Right.
can't give them a minute 55 and 3 touchdowns or 3 timeouts to get 3 points.
Yeah. Basically, any time limit with 3 timeouts is pretty easy for a team to get in the field goal range. Basically, even if they had run it down to 30 seconds left and there was 3 timeouts, up, like that's plenty of time for Illinois to go get in field goal range.
Yeah.
So, but let me say this about the game. I came into it saying Jane Mayava doesn't make mistakes in the game. Well, he made some mistakes in this game against that
Yeah.
Illinois defense. And, something I'll just go ahead and say flat out right now. I remember whenever Indiana blew out in Illinois, all the talk was, well, they played Illinois. That's not a good team. I mean, we saw them play against them. They're not a good team. Literally 1 week later, we know exactly about that. So, credit to Bielema and them. Altmaiers looked great again. They were able to actually run the football this week, which is, again, something that I think was really helpful. If you know anything about Brett Bielema and his offense, if they don't have a run game, it is hard for him to win. So, had a little bit of a run game that helped out a lot to go along with good quarterback play. And, yeah, a couple fumbles by Illinois were truly the difference because they flat out outplayed USC for most of that game. So, but again, we're having this conversation about Lincoln Riley. I think now 4-11 versus top 10 opponents in his time at USC. We're kind of having a conversation about him that we're having about another coach that we're going to get to in a little bit, unfortunately, as bad as we don't want to talk about it. Um,
Yeah.
but my question with him is, how much longer is USC going to give him to get this right, to get them to the level that they can compete at the top of the Big Ten? Because I think when they made that hire, just like I'm sure me and you both thought was, oh, they're going to be top 10 every single year, basically. They're back. USC's back to at least being a team we look at as a national title contender. For 1 year, I think people thought that. And ever since then, it's been, well, they're close, and they just can't get it done.
Yeah, USC really just has not looked good post Caleb Williams. Not really that they did even when Caleb Williams was there. But at least when Caleb Williams was there, you were like, we have a guy who's going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft, and he is going to keep them in every single game.
Yeah.
He's a must-watch TV. Um, but it really hasn't been the same looking at, the team since then. I think Maiyava's a great quarterback, but look, this is USC's game to win, even though they had been outplayed. I just can't believe you don't even run the ball once and make them use at least
Right.
one timeout. I was just stunned to see
I
them
mean,
take 5 seconds.
that's simple clock management that I do whenever I play college football 26.
Yeah,
If I have the ball down by like 4 and I'm on the 10-yard line with 2 minutes left, I am running that ball and I am at least making them use their timeouts. Give
yeah.
them less of a chance to stop the clock at least or something. If they don't want to use their timeouts, you can run the clock down.
I mean, look, I get taking your points. Had they run a play and Illinois just let them run through, I say go ahead and get in the end zone then. That's a different conversation to me. But to call a shot play to the end zone to a receiver whose hands were like magnets, uh, and he makes another phenomenal catch. Look, I think it's a great play call. It was just the wrong time. Just the wrong
Hey,
time.
shout out Makai Lemon for USC. He was really good in this game for them.
He was awesome in this game. Touchdowns, 2-point conversions. When they looked this guy's way, he was making big plays. Um, then we've got Chambliss and number 13, Ole Miss, looking good, staying hot as they slay the number 4 team in the nation, LSU Tigers, 24-19. And look, we saw an awesome defensive matchup
Yep.
between these two teams. But look, like we talked about coming into this game, it's been a shift from the last couple of years. We can count on LSU's defense to keep them in games, but the offense just hasn't done what it needed to do this season. And that cost them here in Oxford as LSU falls. Thoughts on this one?
I don't want to say we hit the nail on the head last week because I don't want to be that kind of people that are like trying to give us credit for our stuff, but we literally hit the nail right on the head. Me and you said literally last week we thought Ole Miss was the better team in this game. And if you watch this game, just ignore box score, ignore the final score. If you watch this game, Ole Miss was above and beyond the better team in the game. LSU still has no running game. I know people are going to be like, well, Caden Durham was out. Even if he was there, the running game wouldn't have worked. Pete Golding was only rushing 3 for Ole Miss. He was basically literally daring LSU to run the football. And even whenever they tried, they couldn't run the football. So now you get in these positions where you are doing predictable, bless you, sir, bless you,
Thank you.
where you were doing predictable run, where you're doing predictable pass plays, where it's 3rd and long. You're not going to win games like that. And for Trinidad Chambliss and them, I'll be honest with you, he looked good, still made a couple mistakes. And Ole Miss's penalties are the only reason LSU was in this game. 14 penalties for 109 yards for Ole Miss in this game. That's the only reason this game was close, was because of that. If it wasn't for that, Ole Miss would not won. They would have blown LSU out in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Gonna hit a couple ones real quick. You can give your thoughts on any of these before we get into the 2 big main event games from Saturday evening. Auburn falls 16-10 to number 9 Texas A&M, and their second straight one possession loss to a ranked SEC opponent. Look, again, Auburn's right there. They just haven't gotten it done. Ohio State wins a big one in Seattle, almost an Austin Wader guarantee last week. Maybe fortunately that it wasn't. Even then, they didn't cover the 8.5. 24-6 victory. Ohio State looked really good in this one. And then number 15, Tennessee, with a big comeback win in overtime versus Miss State and Starkville. Man, Mississippi State looks good. They're also another team I think is right there in the SEC right now.
For A&M, I'll just say really quick, they had more passing yards than Auburn had total yards in this game. They had more rushing yards than Auburn had total yards in this game. The only reason Auburn scored a touchdown was courtesy of their defense on the interception. I'll just say really quick, we won't talk much about Auburn. A&M just showed why they're dangerous. They can win a 41-34, 41-40 shootout game. They can also win a 16-10 ugly grudge match game. If you can win in multiple different ways, you're a dangerous team. Let's just leave it. Let's just leave it that. With Washington, I hate doing this because I hate this coach. I wish this coach no success whatsoever. Matt Patricia's done a hell of a job with that defense coming into that situation. Their defense is incredible. I
Agreed.
know all the people who are like, the Ohio State offense isn't explosive. Well, it doesn't have to be. They're playing complementary
Yeah.
football to that defense because the defense is the strength of their team. I think
Yeah, and
Ohio State only
Julian
had
saying, not to cut
six
you off,
possessions.
but Julian saying made some great throws in this game.
Right.
Maybe not as explosive as last year, but you also got to think he was calling. It's not Chip Kelly in his
Right.
exciting up tempo, sling it around the yard, like spread option playbook. It's a little bit different. Again, like you said, it's a team that plays to its strengths and complements its defense. They do what they need to do to get the job done.
Yeah. Is it pretty football to watch for everyone? Probably not. It's probably not pretty football to watch. But is it going to get them wins? Lost it a lot of the time. Absolutely, it is, and then probably give them a win whenever they play a certain team a couple weeks down the road. Tennessee being Mississippi State. There's no specific points. This was just an awesome game featuring two really
Agreed.
good SEC teams. And it's unfortunate someone had to lose this game in overtime. That's pretty much my takeaway from this one. You know, you some people like you don't have to look at like, oh, there was this part that happened, or this moment that happened, this and that. This was just a great game with two great offenses, two great coaching staffs, two great teams, and unfortunately, somebody had to lose. Mississippi State still looks really good. They will probably give some teams a lot of fights in the SEC the rest of the year. And for Tennessee to get a gutsy win like that on the road in that environment, that might keep that getting that win might be the difference between them being the last team out of the playoff and getting in the playoff at the end of the year.
Yeah, agreed. Because they really could not afford to have two SEC losses this early in the season. Um, but let's take a look at Saturday evening where we had some awesome matchups. Look, number 6 Oregon takes down number 3 Penn State after 2 overtimes in Beaver. These two teams, look, they this was dead even. This game was dead even. Neither of these teams could quite push away from each other, and it took a heck of an athletic effort from Dylan Theinman to finally put this game on ice in second overtime.
Yeah. Let me just say this. This game through three, I think with like 3 minutes to go in the third quarter was a 3-3 game. If you don't like that, you don't like Big Ten football, baby.
Yeah.
But Oregon scores the 2 touchdowns, goes 17-3, and then they just cut to Dan Lanning over there. Just it's over. And I'm like I know this is Penn State in a big game, and the fans are chanting "Fire Franklin." But I'm like, there's still like a whole fourth quarter to play. Last I checked, and then Penn State goes down the field, back-to-back touchdown drives to tie it up, send it in overtime. Um, just a great game. I will say this: do we not know what targeting is anymore? Like on in overtime, you know the play I'm referring to. I don't understand how in the world that's not targeting. Crown of the help. What do you mean? He literally lowered him went head first into him. It's about as obvious targeting is. If that's not targeting, then why are we even penalizing targeting anymore? Because I've seen way hits that weren't even to the head that were like, okay, that's targeting. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But it was one of the more sudden endings to a game I've ever seen. Like the overtime was just going along, Oregon scoring the one play, and I'm like, all right, let's see what Penn State can do. And I legit like just sat there in like silence. I was like, oh my God, he intercepted that. Like it was like so sudden, like I didn't know how to react to it because it was
I'm
just
with
so
you.
like that stadium just went like it went from 100,000 to like 5 people in that stadium in the blink of an eye. And I'll just go ahead and say this before you say your point. Before we kind of dive into the point about Penn State that we unfortunately have to talk about, this Oregon team, like you mentioned, start of the year, this is a young team with a lot of talent. They're not even close to how good they could be. They have not even come close to reaching their full potential. And for them to win this game on the road, that is scary, not just for the Big Ten, but for the rest of college football. But obviously, we'll get to Penn State in a second here. But your thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, the way this game ended was just kind of, wow, wait, what just happened? Like, you're stunned because it felt like these two teams were just going to be trading touchdowns all night. Once we got through the first little bit of overtime, I was like, okay, we're going to be here for a little bit. Let's go ahead and strap in. And then all it takes is one throw that's just a little bit off and an athletic reach and jump, and the game's over. And I was watching replay saying, did he bobble this? Did he drop this? Just trying to see what's going on because, yeah, it just felt absolutely surreal for the game to be like, oh, these two teams are playing awesome football, going back and forth. And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden, when you think
game
something
over.
big's about to happen, it's just over. And that's it. So it's absolutely wild. But like you said, look, same story, different year for Penn State. I'll say this much. Look, yeah, it sucks. They lose another big game in conference, but at least in this one they were right there. Usually this is a blowout loss.
Mm.
Um, I know that doesn't make it feel better for Penn State fans. It doesn't make it feel better for me, but it's not like Penn State was outclassed in this game. They held their own, they played well, and this really just comes down to one play where one team played a little bit better than the other team.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just the unfortunate story here. I'll just be honest with it. It's nothing against it. The Penn State offense has got to get better if they want to win these big games. The last time I had thought of an explosive Penn State offense, a certain number 26 was in the backfield at running back
Yeah,
for them. That's the last time I've thought of a Penn State offense as truly explosive. We've seen it against, the bad teams, what they can do. But whenever it comes to these games, we're looking at it as like, what's Drew Aller going to do? And he's not playing. Now, I will give him credit. Fourth quarter, that first drive, that first touchdown pass, probably the best throw of his career. I'll be honest with you. It was probably the best throw he's ever made. Then leads him on the field down to drive in overtime. And then in overtime, if he just waits like half a second longer, he's got the guy open on the wheel route for the touchdown. If he just waits half a second longer, it's a touchdown for Penn State, and they're going for a 2-point conversion to potentially win in walk-off fashion. So the offense has got to get better throwing the ball, and they got to play better up front. The defense in every single one of these big games, Austin, has been great for them. The defense has been awesome, but they just haven't been able to get it done. I'll just go ahead and say, I think it's say Dante Moore, new Heisman candidate. Anybody with the way he performed on the road? Someone me and you both believed a lot in what we saw his freshman year at UCLA with that. But for Penn State, I'll just say it down the line. Now you're at a point here where this was supposed to be the moment. This was supposed to be the game where we're like, this is the year for Penn State. They finally won a big game at home. Now you didn't. And guess what? You still got to go play at Ohio State, a place you haven't been able to prove to win. You still got to play Indiana at home, a team that has proven to be able to go on the road, but also score a lot of freaking points. You've got to win one of those two games if you want to be in the playoff at the end of the year. Because if
agreed.
you're 9-3, you're sitting there on the edge, and you're probably not going to get favor over a 10-2 team that won their conference or this or that. So they just got to find a way to win these big games. Otherwise, we're going to hear fire James Franklin, and me and you will be sitting there like, why fire him? You're getting 10-win seasons. But when it has the games keep on happening like this, you sit there and it's like, again, really?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Look, like you talked about with those games still on the schedule, if the rankings hold coming into those matchups, look, that's two more top 10 matchups for them as it currently stands. We'll look at those rankings here in a minute. Yeah, you're not going to get into the college football playoff if they look at your resume and they say, you're 9-3, that's all right, but all of your losses are against top 10 opponents. Theoretically, three teams that are in this playoff already. If you can't beat a fourth of the pool, if you can't beat a quarter of the teams in here, we've already seen that this season. We'll go for somebody else who we think might, at least we haven't seen them play these guys yet.
Yep.
At least we don't already know that story. So, yeah, I agree with you. You can't have three top 10 losses. and still make this college football playoff. One of those games you are going to have to win. Um, but finally, the last game we'll look at, number 17, Alabama stuns number 5, Georgia, with the 24-21 victory. And look, after all the I think we all just kind of downplayed Alabama coming into this. Look, last season didn't go their way. This season hadn't really been the start they wanted. And I know I was thinking, are we looking at a changing with Kalen DeBoer soon? Like, could Alabama be getting sick and tired and fed up after this season, wanting to find somebody that's going to keep this team competitive, much like Saban did? And look, they come out and win this game. They're in control. Georgia did have a bit of a comeback in this one, but they still get the job done and they win, and they put themselves right back in that SEC title conversation.
If I would have walked into this game on like whenever we were talking about like Thursday or Friday night, talking about it, and I would have looked at you and been like, Ty Simpson was the best player on the field on Saturday night, you would have been, I bet you would have been like, yeah, right. Ty
Yeah.
Simpson, the game manager, is going to be the best player on the field in this matchup. Get out of here. That's exactly what happened. Best game I've seen him play. He was awesome for Alabama's game. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it with that he was a game man. He was awesome in this game for Bama. Was cool under pressure here. And I bet some people early in that game, Ryan Williams has that big drop down the field, and a bunch of people I bet are going, oh, here we go again. Here we go again with Alabama. Guess what? Late in the game, they're throwing to Ryan Williams again. He's getting freaking nailed on one of those hits and gets up, pointing first down. It's as gutsy of a win as it gets. This is the Bama I envision that star of the year. This is the reason I picked Bama to win the SEC, because of games like this. Credit Ryan Grubb. Again, I thought Ryan Grubb was one of the better hires of the offseason for any team in the country. Credit to him there and this Bama offense. Georgia's defense. My gosh, what has happened to them? Did you know, Austin? They have not gotten a sack this year.
I did not know
At
that.
least some teams sometimes accidentally get QB sacks. They can't even get one through a quarter of a way through the season.
So you're telling me a quarterback hasn't even like slipped and fall, and they just give it
No,
to the closest guy that
I've
just
I've looked at the stats for all the games. Marshall 0 sacks. Austin P 0 sacks. Tennessee, they didn't even touch him one time. They have not they have not gotten pressure on the quarterback. And that's something you think about in the past, Austin, with Georgia defenses, and think, oh man, the Georgia defenses are super aggressive, feisty. They're going to shut down the run game, be aggressive. You didn't see it against Tennessee. You got a couple of stops in the game. Credit to them, a couple of stops. And I text you, I remember halfway through, I was like, those in-game adjustments better come for Kirby soon. And to his credit, the defense in the second half did their job. Now, the big issue is the thing that me and you worried about the entire offseason was, could Gunnar Stockton do it in the big games? We saw it against Tennessee, but when he played a solid defense in Alabama, the offense just folded. He couldn't get the ball to the elite weapons that are in this wide receiver room, and that cost him. And also, 4th and 1 in the red zone, you got a chance to kick a field goal and tie it up. You go for it and don't get it. Kirby, listen, in other situations, I agree. 4th and 1 in the third quarter, second quarter, first quarter in the red zone, absolutely go for it. But in a game like this, in a second half where there's hardly been any pressure at any points at all, take this chance and tie the football game up. So it's unfortunate there for him. But credit to Bama after that Florida State loss. I think you're absolutely right. We all were kind of like, okay, now what with Alabama? And they got the win on the road here. You know, man, Bama got the win against Georgia. Huge win against Georgia. Man, wonder who they play next week. Surely it's not going to be anything similar to what happened to them last year, right? Surely
yeah,
not.
surely no consequences for their actions
Yeah,
coming
surely
into
it's
next
not like
week.
they play a certain QB who pulled off one of the bigger upsets in college football history last year. I mean, what are the chances of playing him twice in a row, back to 2 years in a row after beating Georgia in each year?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly what goes down in that one. We'll talk about it in a moment. Team of the week. Who are your top 5 teams of the week?
Um, so top five teams of the week for me. Number five, I put Illinois here. Good performance for them. I know some. I'll go ahead and say it. I bet some people are like, no Notre Dame in here for a dominating win. Look, obviously, like I talked about, we're going to talk about Sam Pittman in Arkansas in a second. So fight me about that, okay? I don't want to hear it. Okay. Number four, I got Ole Miss. I thought Illinois go back to second. Illinois played really well in the game. I thought they deserved credit. Four is Ole Miss. If they had blown out LSU, which it kind of looked like they did not have the penalties, they would have been higher up, I think. Um, but they dominated the game, still got the win. Probably the biggest win of Lane Kiffin's tenure at Ole Miss so far, if I do say so. Number three, Virginia. Great win for them. And hey, Austin, you know what the crazy part about Virginia is? Yes, they lost a game to NC State. That wasn't a conference game. So Virginia is still undefeated in conference play. Don't ask me
What
how. Don't ask me
what
how.
are you
I
saying
just
right
know
now?
it was not a conference game. So Virginia is undefeated in ACC play still.
What? What
You
are you
can look at the
talking
standings
about?
for the ACC right now. It'll say 2-0 for Virginia by it. It blew my mind too. So they still
How
have a
on earth do you play
chance.
a how on earth do you play a conference team in a non-conference game? I don't understand that.
Uh, it's there's always random moments like that with these games. That I've seen it actually happen multiple times in the ACC before. I don't get it. But great win for Virginia. Had to be in my top three. Number two, Oregon. If you can go on the road and win the whiteout, you have my respect. And you got done on the road in a great environment there. And like I said, they're not even close to what they could be by the end of the year. They're not even close. Then number one, Alabama. Like you said, it was, I don't want to say it was shocking the world, but it was kind of everyone's like, okay, Georgia's a better team this year. They'll take care of them. We'll be talking about Georgia. But no, Bama went on the road, got a great win in a place where Georgia had won 33 games in a row. It's impressive for Bama. They had to be my number one.
Yeah, so at number five, we have all the same teams, just a slightly different order. At number five, I
Yep.
also went Illinois. Definitely one of the five best wins of the weekend. Just unfortunately, it's the fifth best win of the weekend because of some of the
Yep.
games we saw go down. At number four, I was beat for beat with you on Ole Miss. This is a great game, great win. Had this been a blowout, this is higher. But honestly, this is the expected result. Was an Ole Miss win, and that's why I left it at four. At number three, I went with Alabama. Look, I love the win. I love them going out and getting it done, and they kind of surprised us. I just valued a couple of these wins more, had a little
Right.
bit more to me. I think this is a great game. But for Oregon, it's in Beaver. It's the number three team in the nation. It's the best game of the weekend, in my opinion. Uh,
Mhm.
and you go out there and you get the job done with some awesome defense. This Oregon team looks unbelievable. But at number one, you're 4-1, you're unranked, you come in, you're playing Florida State, who's ranked in the top 10. Nobody's giving you a chance. Didn't talk about this game last week. Nobody's talking about this game. ESPN's already advertising Miami, Florida State next weekend with their rankings right now. What? I'm like it's going to be prime time, and it is prime time, but they might as well have announced College Game Day going already. I was dumbfounded by it. But Virginia comes out and wins this game against all odds. This was the biggest stunner of the weekend, and it brought them into the top 25. When we look at social media, look, Virginia winning two polls, Oregon winning a poll, and look, that puts Virginia as our team of the week. So the big upset against number eight Florida State gets you our team of the week.
Yeah, love to see it for them. Congrats to them. In an ACC again, where we're really the only two teams we think Miami and Florida State. One of those teams is going to be losing again this week. So if Florida State loses, that could be two conference losses for them. Why not get a surprise team in there to play Miami at the end of the year if Florida State does lose to them? So Virginia could be that if they keep on playing the way they are offensively.
Agreed. Let's take it into the players of the week now. I think we both had very different lists this week.
It is insane how different our list was. I remember whenever we sent them to each other, I was like, man, these are not even close to the same. Number
Yeah.
five for me, I got Fluff Bothwell here. Just go to name. Question for you. Where did he play last year?
It was South Alabama, right? He was a
Very
Jaguar.
good. Them Jaguars at South Alabama.
We
That's
talked
what I
about
like to
Fluff a
hear.
good bit last year. I think he got
Yeah,
several Player of the Week
that's
nods.
why I was asking because I remember he got I think he won or was on our list, both our lists for a player of the week, if I remembered last year. But had a great game, Mississippi State here, 130 plus yards, multiple touchdowns, was awesome. Number four, I have to get my defense player in here. Look, I watched this game because I wanted Washington to pull off the upset so bad, so I could get an amazing prediction right, but it didn't happen. And part of the reason why, Caden Curry for Ohio State, 3 sack game in this win for Ohio State. Their defense is, again, I hate giving Matt Patricia credit because it always stings me because of things he did in the NFL. But credit where credit's due, their defense is the best in college football so far this year. Number three, win with this guy. How about, speaking of all time names, Austin, how about Lunch Winfield? What a goated name, quarterback for
Yeah.
Louisiana. What a game they had with Marshall. Double overtime 54-51 game in their win, and he was a part of it. 2 touchdown passes, 125 yards passing, sure, whatever. 129 yards rushing for him, 3 touchdowns in their win over Marshall. I wanted to give him some love. Plus, again, what a name, Lunch Winfield. I mean, give me, how is he not on the top 10 names list that you always see at the start of every
Yeah.
single year? Number two, Ty Simpson. Again, I thought he was incredible in this game. He was unbelievable for Bama, and he is the reason they won this game with him throwing the ball as well as he did, being calm under pressure. But number one, the guy who I think after this game is right up there in the talks with the Heisman, especially with John Mateer being out, Dante Moore. This is a guy I had as my surprise player of the year because me and you talked about him in his freshman year at UCLA. We were like, man, he's awesome. Then he transfers to Oregon, sits for a year. People kind of forgot about him. People kind of forgot about him on the bench,
Yeah.
and he has lit it up. And in this big environment, best team he's probably played against up to this point, he balls out on the road in the whiteout. Had to give him some love as my number one.
Yeah. Awesome list. And just had to do a little research for you. Number 19 in our Player of the Year finish last year, Fluff Bothwell,
There
South
we go.
Alabama. And he was a one-time Player of the Week winner.
Atta boy, Fluff. Shout out, Fluff Bothwell. Shout out.
But yeah, look, getting into my top five, at number five, I went with Diego Pavia. Look, this was a close one for me. It was either Pavia or Haynes King at number five for me. They both had awesome weeks. But I've had Haynes King in a lot of my lists, and his team had the less dominant performance, a little bit of a nail biter against Wake Forest. So I went with Diego Pavia, 5 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. He's finding his footing right before a big matchup coming this weekend. He is certainly it was a bit of a surprise coming into Alabama last year, but this year
Not even
the
close.
Mayfield offense looks really, really good. They are not surprising anybody. No wonder game day will be headed down there this year and this week. At number four, I went with Dylan Theinman. Look, so maybe statistically in this game, but like we said, just an absolutely breathtaking game-ending interception
Yes.
and double overtime, and a sequence that looked like we were just going to see teams going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Who was going to get the edge? He put us to bed a little bit earlier than I thought we were going to. Uh, then at number three, I went with Maddox Madsen from Boise State. All out awesome game for him. I believe 4 passing touchdowns, over 300 yards. Wasn't a huge name opponent or anything, but just to see Boise State, turning the corner this year. No Ashton Genty. The running game didn't work to start the year. They've been able to lean on him, and he's been consistent, solid piece. Had to give him the nod. At number two, look, the Auburn defense looked great this weekend and held A&M's explosive offense to 16 points. But one guy that hasn't been contained all season, and I get to give him a little nod here, Le'Veon Moss. He's had a great week, but in a week
Mm-hmm.
where an interception thrown by Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed doesn't throw any touchdowns. This guy still gets 130 rushing yards, puts it in the end zone. Absolutely phenomenal performance for Le'Veon Moss. And at number one, I went with Greg DeRozers Jr.
Yep.
from Memphis. This guy's unbelievable. I believe over 200 yards rushing, four
Yeah.
rushing touchdowns. This Memphis offense looks untouchable. If they keep on this pace and they win the American, this might be our group of five team in the college football playoff this year.
I still cannot wait for some of those American matchups. Talking about with Memphis and them, it's going to be great. And I mean, if you keep on putting up performances like this, plus I'm hoping Alex Golsh is thinking about, maybe some other jobs. One in Fayetteville where I think he'd
Yeah.
be a terrific fit, if I do say so myself. But nonetheless,
So we look at social media. We've got Le'Veon Moss winning polls, Lunch Winfield winning polls. How about that? And Dante Moore
yeah,
winning some polls. When you do all the math, you crunch all the numbers. It helps to be number one. Dante Moore is our player of the week.
wow, congrats to him. Someone again that we've been super excited to see play this year, and he's lived up to it. So awesome, awesome for him, and big congrats to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take it into that AP poll and let's start with our top 10 teams here. We had a lot of shakeup here, so try to stay with me. At number one, the only team I think in the entire top 10 that stays put is Ohio State. And from there, it's up, down, jump around, turn around, craziness. At number two, we've got the Oregon Ducks moving up 4 spots. Going down one is the Miami Hurricanes. And look, this simply comes down to being idle this past weekend and
Yeah.
an exciting weekend of college football. At number four, moving up 9 spots, we've got the Ole Miss Rebels. At number five, we've got the Sooners moving up 2 spots. Moving up 3 spots in number six, we've got Texas A&M. Number seven, dropping down 4 spots, we've got the Penn State Nittany Lions. Moving up 3 spots to number eight is Indiana. Texas moves up 1 spot to number nine, and Alabama with the big 7 spots to be the number 10 team in the nation. Thoughts on our top 10? I think this might be the best top 10 we've had all year. Feels like we're starting to round it out and get the right teams in there.
It does feel like it. The only thing I will say is my issues, if I have any here, would be with number 7 and number 9. Listen, I love Penn State and them. I'm going to read off Penn State and Texas's wins. Stop me when you hear a very impressive win for a top 10 team. Nevada,
Top.
FIU. Nevada, impressive win.
Impressive. Well, hey, go. Oh, they're the Lobos, right? No, they're the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
Wolfpack. The
Nevada,
Wolfpack.
FIU, Villanova. That's all Penn State's. Then on Texas's big wins, San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston. Meanwhile, Texas Tech has beaten multiple Power Four teams. Why are they not getting the respect in the top 10? How is Bama not ranked ahead of Texas and them? They just showed what they could do against a big time team. And obviously, we're going to get to some teams a little bit later on down the line with it that I'll talk about why they should be ranked higher than them. But that's my only thing with it that I have issue with. I have no issue with Oregon moving up because I thought if they won, that's exactly what would happen. Ohio State did enough where I had no issue with them staying at number one. Ole Miss moving up deserved. Oklahoma, A&M, all deserved. Indiana moving ahead of Texas. It's about freaking time. I was going to be pretty upset if they were still ranked ahead of Indiana. So yeah, no issues for me with the top 10.
I want to be honest. I'm going to say this, and I don't think it's wrong for Ohio State to stay at number one, but I felt pretty good that Oregon should have moved up to number one.
I would
Ohio
agree.
State moved, Ohio State moved up to number one when they were three and they beat the number one team in the nation. I think when you're six and you beat number three and number one plays unranked Washington, I think at least for a week we should
Right.
be appreciating that win maybe a little bit more. But I don't think that anything crazy. I would agree. Maybe Texas could still be outside this top 10. I don't think that's wrong. I do like Penn State staying in the top 10. I know they don't have the most impressive resume right now, but again, we're talking about a very good, very close back and forth game that was decided by an athletic as heck interception. Um, so I like Penn State staying in the top 10, but dropping a little ways. Um, at 11, we've got Texas Tech moving up 1 spot. Georgia drops down 7 spots to 12. LSU drops down 9 spots to 13. Iowa State stands firm at 14, and Tennessee stands firm at 15. My thoughts here right away when we look at these next five is that I actually am okay with Georgia and LSU falling out. I would have
Mhm.
maybe liked to see Georgia be a little bit closer to the top 10, if not stay in it, but I do get why they fell out. I would have liked to see LSU drop a little bit more. They've still looked unimpressive. I think Iowa State moving up would have been okay. Um, I think Tennessee got lucky this week. I think Mississippi State's a great team and a great matchup for them, and they won a great game. Um, but had this been a week where you didn't have so much flip and flop all around you, talk about a team like Florida State, who we'll talk about in a minute, who dropped 10 spots. You might have been falling one or two spots this week just because the two interceptions for Joey Aguilar having to come back. I know you're on the road playing against a team that looks like they're really proving themselves, but I think they kind of dodged a bullet not dropping out of this top 15 because I feel like they were pretty close. But your thoughts on this
Yeah.
next five?
The only thing I disagree with was kind of like you mentioned. I thought Iowa State should have moved up. They are probably one of the more criminally underrated teams in all college football right now. With some of the wins they've got against Power Four teams, and they got to play BYU and Arizona State still. So those could be two games that could really kind of help with their resumes. I agree with keeping Tennessee there. I could have seen it where they could have moved up because of the big win on the road, but the only one I have major issue with, again, is I think Texas Tech and Iowa State probably should both move up a little bit. That's the only two I really have issues with. Not with Georgia and LSU. I kind of like it that they just specifically flipped Ole Miss and LSU spots. Like literally was Ole Miss, you'll take their spot. LSU take Ole Miss's spot.
Agreed. At number 16, we've got Old Vandy rising up the top 25 again and again and again. Dropping down 1 to 17 is Georgia Tech. Dropping down 10 to 18 is Florida State. Up one more spot is the Missouri Tigers. Down one spot is the Michigan Wolverines. That shakes up our top 20. Thoughts on these guys?
I will continue to say it. Vandy should be higher. I will continue to say it on here. When you look at their resume with their wins for at Virginia Tech, blowout, at South Carolina, blowout, dropping 70 on Georgia State, 55 on Utah State. They have looked, again, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about in the season so far, not about what the preseason ranks. They have looked better than Texas so far this year. They should be ranked ahead of them. And other people are like, you just want to cheer for Vandy. Yeah, I want to cheer for them, but also I want to get respect to teams that are playing these Power Four teams and not just winning big in them. So they deserve to be higher. Missouri should be higher too. I hate saying it because I can't stand Missouri. They should be higher. They've had a couple impressive wins on their resume. And hey, they play Bama in 2 weeks, I believe. 2 weeks they play Alabama at home. That could probably help their resume out a good bit there. But they should be higher too. That's the main two I have issue with. Georgia Tech's close loss or close win there. I get moving them back a little bit. And Florida State dropping back 10, I have no issue with.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Rounding out our top 25, Notre Dame moves up one spot to 21, Illinois one spot to 22, BYU two spots to 23, and welcome to the top 25. At 24, we've got Virginia, and 25, we've got Arizona State. Look, just right away, I love Virginia getting in the rankings. I love rewarding a team for being unranked, being 4-1, winning against a top 10 team. Welcome to the top 25. Same thing for Arizona State. You beat a top 25 team. You've been hanging around since week one or, your first game where you fell out of the top 25. Now you're back in. Welcome back, Arizona State. So I like the way this bottom part shakes out. It said Notre Dame shouldn't be here, but they should be because of the way things happen. It's kind of
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. I'll ignore the Notre Dame. I have no issue with the rest of these. I have no issue whatsoever. The only one I would have had issue with was Mississippi State not being ranked high enough if they had beaten Tennessee, but they didn't, so they weren't going to get in here. Happy Arizona State's back in the rankings. They should have still been there this entire time. And then Virginia, yeah, like I said, welcome in. So I have no issue with this end of the top 25.
Agreed. But look, before we get into our game previews and our game picks, we've got one last little thing we've got to talk about. Notre Dame beat the Arkansas Razorbacks so bad this past weekend that they finally decided to make a decision that was maybe, what, a year and a half, 2 years in the
Mm-hmm.
making. The Razorbacks let go of Sam Pittman, and then this morning also comes out that Travis Williams and a couple other defensive staffers have also been let go. So with all these moves for the Arkansas Razorbacks, what's your thoughts? And give me, I don't know, your Christmas list of, I don't know, top three candidates for the Arkansas job.
Well, first of all, let me just say this for Sam Pittman. Uh, I want to thank him for taking that job in end of 2019, 2020 when nobody else wanted it. Nobody in the country wanted to even touch that job. And he's taken it to a point where it's gone from no one even wants it to we're actually mad that we're not reaching expectations with the team, which is something I think back in 2018, 2019, we would have killed to get to 6 wins. But now it's okay, we expect better since we've gotten to that point. But like I said, this was time. It was time for this move to happen. I didn't think they were going to do it, but at the same time, I told myself with this Notre Dame game and a bye week after, if they were going to fire him, it was going to be this week. And if they didn't fire him this week, he was going to be the coaching the rest of the year. And they made the move despite the whole buyout thing. I don't know. Do you see that whole buyout where if he has a losing record, the buyout drops by 3 million?
I saw that. I was with you. If he didn't win this year, if he didn't win this game, he was probably gone. You couldn't afford to wait for a losing
Right.
record.
But
I think it gets too far into the season, and then you're having to have a whole nother issue. This gives you a chance to reset, and at 2-3, sure, maybe you're not going to win an SEC title or compete for a national championship, but this is a chance to turn your season around and still be a 7, 8,
yeah,
9 win ball club.
maybe.
Best case scenario.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to poison people's minds with because it is unlikely. I'm not trying to say I think that they can be an 8-win team, but this gives you the chance to still do something with your season. Whereas you wait, a couple more games till you have a losing record. Well, then what's the point in firing the coach? Just finish out the season.
Right. And for Bobby Petrino to become the interim, I mean, there's too many storylines there that we could talk about, so I'm just going to move on from it. But it writes itself. Um, I will just say this: I woke up this morning expecting there to kind of be more changes. I didn't expect it for the AD and Hunter and them to come be like, Bobby, do whatever changes you need to, and he fires three defensive coaches, and I'm like, okay, whoa. Like how premeditated was this move? Like how premeditated was it? And listen, Travis Williams absolutely was probably not going to be back next year. The only thing I give him is he was a heck of a recruiter. Our highest ranked recruit for this upcoming class is next year before the Sam Pittman firing. He's now decommitted for obvious reasons because Travis Williams is gone. Um, was a four-star linebacker, and the defense was good last year. It was the problem a lot of the time this year, though, so he wasn't going to survive that. But let me just be frank and say this about the job. It's not even close to being completely clean. Um, this is far from just a Sam Pittman issue. I've already said it a million times. It's the higher ups at the university that got to make the changes. Considering the board of trustees had a meeting with Hunter on Friday asking him about his comment at the touchdown club, he's like, "Well, I was misunderstood. This is what I meant." I'm like, oh, he's on the hot seat. Oh, he's on the hot seat with them.
Yeah, buddy, you better
He's in
turn that
trouble
football
after
program
that.
around. Yeah,
So
that's bad.
it's just not a good statement. It's something that you just keep to yourself, even if you like lie to the fans, at least in that situation. But we'll see what happens with Arkansas. I will say this: if Bobby Petrino, based on the rest of the schedule, gets to a bowl game, he's getting the full-time job because the report that came out was when he got fired, he was the interim, and Hunter Yurchek said we're doing a wide coaching search nationwide, but Bobby Petrino has expressed a lot of desire to have the head coaching job. So if Bobby gets this team to a bowl game and they win the bowl game, he's getting the full-time job. There won't be a search made. He will get the full-time job. But like you talked about, here's my wish list. I posted on Twitter the other day. Number one candidate that I would love to have for the Arkansas job is Alex Golsh at South Florida. I want him. He is, if I could have any coach and it would make sense, I would want him for the job. What he's done in South Florida has been incredible turnaround there. Number two, Rhett Lashley at SMU. Now, I know people are going to be like, Austin, we've gone down the SMU coach path before. Let's not go down it again, for those of you who know what I'm talking about there. But unlike it, There are several ties. Number one, he's done way better at SMU than that prior coach had done at SMU. And number two, Brett Lashley grew up in Springdale, Arkansas, played quarterback at the University of Arkansas. He's got all this ties. It would make a lot of fans happy. I think it'd make the university happy. So it's if I had to pick one that I think the betting favorite is, if Brett Lashley wants the job, he will probably get it. If I do say it. But my third option, I only say three. I have a ton more. But my last one is one that I've talked about for a while. GJ Kinney from Texas State. He's a guy that has bought into the new era of college football. His transfer portal teams are always so good. He does so well in the portal. He's turned Texas State from a bottom feeder to a consistent 8-9 win program competing for the Sun Belt. So those would probably be my top three. Notice how that's a bunch of young coaches coming in and bringing something different. I don't want really an old coach. The only old coach I'd really be interested in bringing in would be Gus Malzahn. I will be dead honest with you. And that would be one just because he's had success winning in the SEC. Why not bring him in? But my top three, Alex Golsh, Rhett Lashley, and GJ Kinney. Those are my top three.
Just one more to put on your mind. Eli Drinkowitz. I think it's super duper unlikely because he is in the SEC. He is in Missouri, but he's from Alma. He's got super deep Arkansas ties, and he gets a lot of support at Missouri from a
Yes.
lot of people that should be supporting the Arkansas Razorbacks. You think about guys like the Waltons and like Tyson and like Jerry Jones who are giving money to Eli Drinkowitz because they really, really like him.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't really give a lot of money to the University of Arkansas. I think it would take a lot of convincing. I think it'd be hard to do, but I think it would be put the University of
Right.
Arkansas in a much better situation, and you'd have a ton of booster support behind Eli Drinkowitz because they're already supporting him at the University of
Yeah.
Missouri.
And I will say this one, this is one that I know won't happen, but I think it's one where it's a Hail Mary, give it a shot. I would call Kurt Signetti at Indiana and make him say no to me. Because if you're going
Uh-huh.
to offer it, Kurt Signetti is a great coach, and I know he's doing good in Indiana. He probably wants to stay there. I get that. But if he has the opportunity to move from the Big Ten to the SEC, I mean, like you would have to consider. I think it's like a Hail Mary, like it's a let me just call and ask if he's interested. It probably won't happen, but it's one where I'm like, to at least give a shot. But the last thing I will say about the job, Austin, is if I'm a coach taking this job, I want a commitment from the university that we're going to put more money and more into football at that university. That is the one thing I would want because if I can't get that guarantee, I don't want this job. I wouldn't want it for any coach. I'll be honest with you. I want more commitment from Hunter and them to bring more money. And it's not just asking fans to bring in the money. You talked about it with the Waltons, everyone. Get more people to buy into the football program. Now, you're able to do it for football, for basketball, baseball, softball, all the other sports. Why not football? If you can't get that commitment to people, they're not going to want to come here. And I would not blame them.
Yeah, even to go a little further on that, if I'm taking this job, I want to sit down with the Waltons. I want to sit down with the
Yes,
Tysons. I want to sit down with all these people. I want to sit down with Jerry Jones, and I want to say, what can I do? Can I count on you to help us turn into Texas Tech? You have the money to do it. Will you help me? Will you help me out? I'm going to do everything I can. Can you do everything you can to make us a better program? Because there's no excuse with all the money being made up there in Northwest Arkansas that you can't help me out.
absolutely. So that's something where if they can't get that commitment for it, then it might just be a situation where it's another what? They hired that guy? If it turns out to be that, I'm like, wow, so we're not getting that commitment for other guys and we're just going with the bold one. Because that's what Sam was. The only reason, not to be mean to Sam and no disrespect to him, the reason he got that job is because nobody else wanted it in 2019. That is the reason he got that job.
Agreed. All right. We've talked about the Razorbacks firings,
Yeah.
potential hirings. Let's get into our game previews here. Only got a few game previews and a few game picks. A little bit of a slower week. Of course, we always talk about trap games, trap games,
Yep.
trap games. You can't come into any of these games super duper easy, but I'm just going to hit a few highlights here, some games that I like, hit some game picks of some of our bigger games, and then we'll talk about that bet of the week. But starting with our game previews, First one I want to look at again that I think could be a trap game here. You've got number 14, Iowa State, facing off against Cincinnati. This is a team we just saw playing an awesome thriller against Kansas last week,
Yes.
where Jalen Daniels looked awesome. I know he doesn't play for Cincinnati, not playing in this game at all, but I've just been so happy to see the Jalen Daniels revival. But Cincinnati looks really, really good right now. One loss on the season. They could put themselves right into this Big 12 title picture with a big win over the leader of the pack, Iowa State.
Yeah. You know what the crazy part is, Austin? I looked it up just for fun. Cincinnati's favored in this game over Iowa
Wow.
State. They're a 1.5 point favorite currently over Iowa State. That is just flat out disrespectful to Iowa State.
Agreed.
Um, Listen, like we mentioned, why are we even trying to predict a game in the Big 12? We don't know what the hell is going to happen here. We have no idea. But with Iowa State, we know how good Rocco Becht and them can be offensively. This Cincinnati run game, I talked about Tawee Walker, the transfer from Wisconsin. Really good running back. If Cincinnati can have success running the football here, we might have a shocker on our hands. But they got to be able to run the football, and that's going to be kind of tough against this Iowa State defense, a team that has only allowed the most points they've allowed in a game so far this year is 21. So they got to be able to run the ball and have success offensively.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I do like Iowa State in this game, but yeah, I think Cincinnati's had a great season, and right now with the way they're playing, I certainly think they're capable of pulling off the
Agreed.
shocker in the Big 12, especially with the way Big 12 football is played. Um, then we've got two of the biggest dumpster fires this side of the United States. Clemson versus North Carolina clashing. Look, this game means pretty much virtually nothing. But these were two huge talking points coming into the season, and they become even bigger talking points as the season's unfolded. What are your thoughts about these two teams? Really, just more of a point to say how you feel about these two teams.
Um, I don't really know what to expect for either of these teams. I just remember how much hype this game got in the preseason. I remember how much hype this thing got in the preseason and for it to fall to where it is now. Uh, I will say it again for Clemson. On paper, you should blow North Carolina out. There is no reason for you not to blow North Carolina out in this game. Yeah, I somehow know it's going to be a one-score game. So, what I'm talking about with Clemson, if you come together, like I said last week or like 2 weeks ago, they have beaten the teams they're supposed to beat. If they can't win this game, we really could be talking about, I think, realistically, Dabo's seat starting to warm up a bit there. And with Bill Belichick, listen, it kind of feels like how long is he going to stay there before he just decides to dip and retire and stuff with that. So, but with Clemson, if they lose this one, fall to 1-4, I'm telling you, that seat's going to start to get pretty warm at Clemson.
I agree with you there. I think this is going to be just a showcase of truly how bad can it get for both programs. Which team sucks a little bit less? We'll see on Saturday. Uh, then last game preview I wanted to hit Mississippi State versus Texas A&M. Mississippi State just played a thriller with Tennessee. We've seen where they're right there with the best of the best in the SEC right now. Texas A&M just had a good game, a win, but it wasn't the Texas A&M we've been seeing all season. They found a way to get it done in a gritty game. They're going to be matched up with a team that's going to try and give them more than they can handle. Thoughts on A&M versus Mississippi State here?
Well, let me just say Mississippi State's going to have a chance in this game. It's not my bet of the week, but Mississippi State plus 14 and a half will probably be a bet I make on come Saturday for these games because I think they've got a chance. They've got a great running game, and again, we talked about it. The reason Auburn lost that game, I couldn't go into more detail, was they really tried passing the ball way more than they needed to with Jackson Arnold at quarterback. They tried way too hard to throw the ball. Me and you both said if they can run the ball with success, they can win this game. And they chose really not to try to run the ball. Same with Mississippi State. But the difference here, Mississippi State's got a better throwing quarterback in the matchup. Blake Shapen, I think, is better passing wise compared to Jackson Arnold.
Yeah.
But they also have the great running back in Fluff Bothwell. So if this Mississippi State offense can come ready to play in this game and turn this into a bit of a shootout, they've got a chance. But like I talked about with A&M, they won a big-time shootout game at Notre Dame. They won an ugly game in SEC play. They won different ways. That makes them really dangerous. I'd probably pick them to win, but I think Mississippi State gives them a heck of a fight.
I agree. I think Mississippi State's going to be a team that hangs around, gives them a tough one. I think if you're Texas A&M, look, maybe last year you could have been like, we'll play the starters the first quarter, and then we'll get the backups going in this one. But we're seeing Jeff Lebby really turn this team around. They're much better, much more competitive this season. You definitely can't be sleepwalking into this game. Let's get into our game picks now. We've got three of them, starting with our first matchup. Nearly a top 25 matchup. Could be a lot closer, a lot sooner. Um, but we've got number 24 Virginia versus Louisville.
Woo! Man, this is an interesting one because Louisville had a really impressive win at Pittsburgh. Man, I feel bad for Pittsburgh. What the heck, guys? We picked you to be good in the preseason. Why aren't you doing good for us? But Louisville looked really good on the road. Miller, Moss, and them have looked great. And this is a chance for one of these two teams who's going to take control kind of in that ACC, who's going to look to try to get up there and fight with Florida State and Miami up there at the top. I'm going to end up leaning probably with Louisville in this game. I just think they're probably the more talented team as a whole in the game. So I'll pick them to win. But if this Virginia offense plays like it did on Friday night, whew, that over under 62.5 might be an easy winner.
Okay, I'm gonna hold up a pause right here. I gotta get my charger from my computer. It was at like 50%, and then it just
Oh
dropped
no.
then it just dropped to 6%. My
Oh
charger
no.
is right over here. Uh,
Go get that
so
charger, man. Don't let the computer die halfway. We're so close. We're so
I know that's what
close.
I'm.
But while he's getting that, like I talked about with this game, I think this game will be really good. I think Virginia's got a chance if their offense comes ready to play. I don't know what the defense is going to do here, so I would expect a high scoring affair between these two teams if Virginia wants a chance to win.
Awesome. We're all plugged up. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is going to be an awesome game. I think Jeff Brom's done a great job at Louisville so far, and kind of the way he's been able to just coach quarterbacks and make guys work. It's been fun to see. Awesome kind of turnaround for Miller Moss as well. Kind of got us highly recruited, had a rough season at USC, being the heir to like Caleb Williams' throne. And that just didn't happen for him. But now he's kind of found some confidence in this Louisville offense. But I'm actually going to take the Virginia Cavaliers in this game. I like Louisville, but I think Virginia, you're riding high off the win you got last week. You've seen what works. You've seen what makes you competitive. I think you ride that momentum on into this game and get another big win and keep pushing yourself to the top of that ACC. All right, next we've got a matchup that probably would have been College Game Day had Florida State gotten themselves a win. It's not College Game Day anymore. Number 3 Miami versus number 18 Florida State. Who do you got in this one?
I can't believe Florida State lost. They robbed us of the biggest matchup in this rivalry since the early 2000s. I'm so heartbroken, but I'll say this: Florida State's still got a really good chance. If they're the big things, can they run the ball against this Miami defense? This Miami defense has been awesome this season, which was the big difference from a year ago with them. If they can run the ball success against Miami, they've got a great chance to win this game. But I believe in that Miami defense a lot more. I've seen them against good opponents, and they've flat out dominated them. I'm going to pick Miami to win this game mostly because of the defense I think they have compared to Florida State. Defense wins it for Miami.
Man, this is going to be a great game, a great defense for Miami. I'm going to go with Florida State. I think riding, kind of the same thing with Virginia. I think both ends of the spectrum. You got to come out. You've got to win. You've got to show people that you're a different team than you were last year. I think Florida State's got a great defense, and I think that's going to keep them in this game. I think they forced Carson Beck to make the mistakes. He's still been a little turnover happy this season at
Mm-hmm.
Miami,
Yeah.
even though overall he's playing a lot better than he did last year at Georgia. Still turning the ball over. I think this is the first team they play this season that's going to be able to take advantage of those Carson Beck turnovers. And I think they come out and they surprise the Miami Hurricanes with a big win this week.
All
Last
right.
game to pick, College Game Day. A lot of words
Yeah.
being exchanged between these two teams. for about a year. Little bit of confidence riding high, and we have a much different perspective on this game than we did in the matchup last year. We've got number 16 Vandy versus number 10 Alabama. Who do you got?
I'll be honest with you. I'm offended you even have to ask me. You know exactly where I'm rolling with it. Let me just say this in all honesty, though, talking about the actual game. I think this Bama team is a lot more balanced in the matchup. I think that's the thing that a lot more balanced than last year. So I think that could help them in this game. Uh, but this Vanderbilt offense, I didn't think it'd get much better than what it was last year against Bama. This offense looks potent. They're able to run the ball. Pavia's throwing with success. I will say this for Vandy to win, again, I think it needs to be a high scoring affair, kind of like the matchup last year. It needs to be a high scoring affair. Offense has got to be rolling. Defense, get a couple of turnovers here and there, and you can win this game. But I'm going to roll with Vandy to get the win here. It makes too much sense. The storyline fits itself yet again. After a big win against Georgia, you're set up there, and now you're playing Vandy. This is where Vandy gets its top 10 ranking. Going with the dawn of Diego to continue, and I'm picking Vandy to win in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I like the way Bama played last week. I think they've really kind of surprised some people, but still, uh, I think I like this Vandy team more. They're playing really good football right now. It's going to be their biggest test, though. But last year, they showed up, they rose, and they met them. And I think they're going to do the same thing this time. It's going to be a rowdy environment in Tuscaloosa, but I've got Diego Pavia and Vandy getting the job done one more time, pushing themselves into that top 10, and giving us a little bit of an interesting look at our SEC after this week.
Man, yeah.
Last little segment here, bet of the week. What do you got? I've been riding high on bet of the weeks. You kind of falling off a little bit.
Yeah, don't want to talk about it from from the last couple of weeks. It has not been good for me here or in the NFL. So I do not want to talk about it. I was gonna do my obvious pick, which was Vandy plus the points. That was my plan walking into this was Vandy plus the points. But I thought I'm gonna make that bet anyway, and it's a popular one. So I thought, you know what? Let's get a little bit more, I don't want to say stinky. Let's get a little bit more creative here with it. And I look at a Wake Forest team that just came off a really impressive performance against Georgia Tech last week. Give me Wake Forest plus 5.5 against Virginia Tech. I like Wake Forest. I love what they're doing their first year, new coaching staff, Robbie Ashford and them. I think they could win the game outright. You could sprinkle some of that money line. But mixing it up, plot twist for you, Wake Forest plus 5.5. That's my bet of the week.
Yeah, I was kind of following you here. Vandy plus the points just felt a little bit too easy.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of went a little bit of a different direction, but not really. I got an Austin Hill guarantee. Vandy wins this game. Vandy money line. Put it all on.
Yes.
Vandy wins against Bama. Money line. Make you some money this weekend.
Yes. Will the undefeated guarantee money line streak continue? I please let it happen. This could be the greatest run ever in the history of the bet of the week on this show. Even years go on,
Yeah,
there won't be any that will top this if Vandy can win this game.
yeah, I need it big time. I feel it big time. I'm that confident. Vanderbilt money line. Who needs the spread? They're going to win this game outright.
It's what I love to hear. I love to hear it.
But that's going to do it for us here at the Bold Take Podcast. We've got an NFL episode coming very, very soon. So stick around. That'll be coming out. But that'll do it for us. That's Austin Waiter. I'm Austin Hill. We want to thank you for listening.